When it comes to basic FPV tricks, the power loop is infinitely simple, and everyone should know how to do it. I mean, basically you should just be able to pick up a drone and power loop immediately in acro, because that's just how easy power loops are. No. Hey everybody, I'm Bacon Ninja, and today I'm going to show you how to power loop in acro with a 5-inch freestyle quad. Because I've seen a lot of people asking, especially on beginner Facebook pages, about how to power loop and tips and tricks about power loops, because everybody seems to have this opinion that power loops are incredibly simple and you should just be able to easily do them right out of the gate. That's not really true. Power loops are kind of more of an art than science when you get right down to how they work, especially with some variables like camera angle, wind, pilot feed if you're working in 16:9 rectangular format or 4:3 semi-rectangular format. There's a lot of variables that come into play and different ways to overcome those variables. But if you don't know what a power loop looks like, it looks like this. So now you know what it looks like. Let's get into why it can be complicated. This is the quad I'm going to be doing power loops on today. This is my Quadmula F5 Siren split DJI O3, maybe perfect freestyle build. We'll see in the middle of the year at some point. I'm not sure yet. But one of the things that makes power loops difficult is the camera angle you fly out. Now I normally fly at about 15 degrees, which is just about right there, 15 degrees, which means that as I come up for the loop, my camera is not pointed in a way that can see what I'm looping under. That means I have a lot of blind spot. And as I follow through the loop, I'm going to continue to have blind spot until about here, where I can actually start seeing the ground underneath the quad. And then it's time to make the corrections before I finally come back through the thing I'm power looping. And it is very important that you come back through the thing you're power looping, else it is not a true power loop. It's just kind of a loop with zero power. So camera angle is a big thing when it comes to variability. The higher your camera angle is, the easier it is to see the obstacle over your head as you're going underneath it and around it, and the easier it is to kind of track it and know where you are in relation to it. Doing them at this low of an angle means that I'm going to be basically doing this trick blind for 3/4 of it, and that's what makes it difficult. On top of that, if you're a pilot that flies in 16:9 format in your video goggles, meaning it's more rectangular, kind of like movie aspect ratio, then you're gonna miss stuff at the top and the bottom of the picture that's being chopped off by your camera, because most cameras like this O3 Air Unit are native 4:3, which means they are more of a square format. And if I chop that down to 16:9, I'm basically cutting the top and the bottom off, which means that any more opportunity that I'd have to see things, say I have a really high field of view and I might be able to see up here even though I'm running a low angle, is gone. I've basically just cut that off for myself. So again, it makes the trick more blind. And the third thing that makes them kind of tricky is the thing that's blowing my hair around, the wind. Now where I live, the wind is always a problem. I am very used to wind. But you have to be aware of wind when you're doing power loops, because when you get into the position where your quad is belly up into the air to come around and do the loop, if wind is pushing against you, you will actually get pushed backwards into the loop. It just happens. So you have to maintain awareness of the air around you. You have to maintain awareness of your camera angle, and you have to consider the aspect ratio you're flying in. But the most important thing about power loops is throttle control. Everybody pins power loops on their ability to use the pitch axis, because you got to pull back, and I'll show you in a minute the stick commands that I use to do this. You got to pull back into the power loop. But the real thing that is important is actually throttle control, because if you don't get the throttle just right in the right spots and you don't learn to trust your own timing in those blind areas, the power loop just fails. And I think that's where most people find the problem. And one last thing to talk about when we're going to jump into learning power loops is that this is a real place where the simulator starts to not feel like real life. The simulator tends to be floaty and your response time's different, and although you can power loop in the simulator, when you get out in the field and do power loops in real life with real conditions, in real camera angles, things are just going to feel very different. So all the muscle memory you've learned about throttle control, although it is close to reality, will not be correct. So you just have to spend a lot of time with this. Now, I'm gonna stop rambling about it. I'm gonna put my goggles on and I'm gonna show you how I power loop and point out a few things that maybe will help you out. And then when I get done with that, I'm gonna show you how to turn a power loop into something else when you completely fail to do it. Because I guarantee you will fail at least one power loop in your FPV lifetime. Take off here, say hi to my quad. All right, and what we're gonna use to power loop today is gonna be this little pavilion here. Now, the wind, I'm actually heading into it right now with the wind. So I wanna go through the pavilion, both sides, pitch back, throttle, punch, follow through, I can see the ground, and then I wanna controlled go through it. We'll do it again. The harder you pitch back, the quicker you're gonna see the ground. But if you pitch back too fast, you're just gonna turn it into a loop like that, and you're gonna wind up high in the air and it ain't gonna work. So watch my pitch stick on this one. All right, we're gonna go through it. Pitch back a little. What's more important is the throttle. You see how I put the throttle back on there? Get some speed through it again. Put throttle back on so I don't flop into the ground. A little bit more pitch for a tighter loop. Throttle, I can see my goal. And there you go. That is how you power loop. Just like that. Now, there's a couple of variations on this. If you bail a power loop, like you saw that I did there a minute ago. If you bail a power loop, you can just stop it and land. If you somehow get too close to the thing you're going under, just flip out of it, and then you can see the ground again. Just hit the throttle or the pitch stick all the way back until you see the ground. I'll do that again for you. So this is how to bail out of them. All right. I bailed out of that one. That was entirely too much pitch. But like I said, the important thing is that you get a small amount of pitch and then pay attention. Punch up, punch over, smoothly find the ground, and then go through your target. And then what you do after that is completely up to you. That light post is gonna get me. The wind's blowing me straight into it. Now to show you the difference, I'm gonna do the same power loop through this pavilion, but I'm gonna do it from the other side. So I'm gonna put the wind at my back. It's gonna be kind of hard to get there actually. The wind's about 20 miles an hour right now. I have to use more throttle, and you see I still didn't make it because I am backing into the wind. So the wind will totally throw you off on these things. Let's do it again. I'm gonna use even more throttle. And see where I came out? And that's what happens when you power loop into the wind and wind up too close to something and then hit a tree because it's behind you, again in your blind spot. So that actually broke the ELRS antenna on my Siren. So I'm gonna have to put a new ELRS antenna on it. That's not a big deal, but I don't have one in the field. So we're actually gonna switch to my other Quadmula drone. This is again an O3 Air Unit equipped quad, but this is a 3-inch on 6S. So this is gonna be even more affected by the wind. Now the thing about this is I won't be able to do stick overlays with it. That's okay. You got the picture of the stick overlays. It's really about the throttle control and the pitch. So pay attention to what I did there. It's not as much pitch as you think. It is way more throttle control than you think. But what I'm gonna show you with this quad is just some different variations on the power loop. Like how to get out of it cleanly if you do have to bail, which is what I was in the middle of showing you whenever I crashed the last quad. And then doing some super long power loops where you really just have to trust your timing. So we're gonna do that with this little baby quad now. But there won't be any fancy stick overlays. So just pay attention to the footage and I'll talk you through it. Let's fly back here so you can see it. This thing sounds so cute. All right. Let's see if we can do the same power loop here. So we're gonna go into this. Again, no stick overlay, but same power loop, you see? So what happens if you want to bail one but not look terrible? You can do this. And then you throttle punch at the end of it. Now I came out really far back because of the wind. Because again, it is windy and it's pushing this quad around pretty good. Let's try that again. You pitch back a little bit more than you would. Let it fall. Give it a throttle punch at the end of the fall. Follow it through with some yaw. Something like that. So throttle control mixed with a little bit of roll or pitch. See, you can do some things at the end of power loops. Set yourself up for other tricks. All right, let's get one more in here. But it's really all about trusting my quad and the timing. And then as I'm coming out of it, I'm using my sticks to correct for where the wind put me. Sometimes the wind is blowing diagonally and you have to do some diagonal adjustments. Now I'm going to change my pack on this real quick because the packs don't last long on this little quad. And then I'm going to show you a really extended power loop. We'll see if we can get one of those in this kind of wind. All right, so let me show you what I'm talking about as far as an extended power loop. I'm going to go over here to this tree line. So see this tree line here? If I go through this ridge, there's this row of trees. Now I'm going to go through that and power loop the whole thing. And what I'm going to be doing is really trusting my timing to get enough backward momentum to get back on the backside of these trees. And I missed it a little bit. See me bail out of that one? Let's try it again. I haven't really done that with this quad yet, this small quad, so I'm getting the timing right. There we go. I got it. Even the little quad can do it. It was complaining to me about voltage the whole time, but even the little quad can do it. All right, let's land this thing, shall we? All right, so that's it. You've seen power loops. You've seen me wreck a quad and destroy my ELRS antenna, and then have to switch over to a micro quad to continue doing power loops, because you can do power loops on anything. Now with small quads, you do have to consider the power factor. This small quad has a whole lot of power, so I can do those big loops. Some small quads don't. Don't try to do that with your tiny whoop. But really at the end of the day, what it comes down to is throttle control, trust in your blind spots, and a little bit of pitch, while also maintaining an eye for the wind. The wind really threw me off today. It's actually calmed down a little bit now that I started talking, but there have been gusts between 20 and 40 miles an hour just today, and some of that was while I was flying. I'm actually standing behind something, so I get less wind and my hair isn't flying around everywhere and you don't hear it and everything. But that's it. Just practice it. A lot of stick time with the throttle is how you get these down, no matter what angle you're at. And the lower angle you're at, the more blind time you have. So if you want to try them at higher angles, that's fine, but don't set your pilot angle based on a single trick. Set it based on what you're comfortable with in general, because if you do it based on a single trick, you've just ruined all your other tricks. So don't do that. Don't crank up to like 35 degrees because it makes the power loops easier. Learn how to do them at 15. Learn your timing, learn your throttle control, and learn how much pitch you need to give the thing, and you'll be fine. Also, stay in the sim with it. Just remember, it's going to be a little different in real life. Anyway, that's all I got. This video isn't worth subscribing to my Patreon or anything. Buy me a coffee? No, probably not. But if you wouldn't mind giving it a thumbs up, if you enjoyed it a little bit and liked me wrecking my quad for you, give it a thumbs up and feel like subscribing, maybe. Or don't, and it's fine. And I'll keep doing this and probably destroying more quads on camera. That's fine too. Anyway, until next time, stay greasy, and I'll catch you later. Shoo, the most powerful loop in the world. And Bacon Ninja crashes the quad because he sucks. What are you gonna do?